Alright, welcome to this quick tutorial on making custom brushes inside Photoshop. So whether you're working, I think even from like Photoshop 3 through 6, it's kind of the same thing, which is what I'm doing here. And that is to to make a brush swatch, all you need to do is put, it's always going to be black on white. So you want to take some black and white image or stamp that you've created, draw a marquee around it, so using the rectangular marquee tool, then go to edit and then pull down to define brush preset. So you see I'm drawing some marquees around here, and then I'm going to go define brush preset, and I'm saving out each one of these little sketches is actually becoming a custom brush. So any swatch that you can create, you can turn into a brush. It can be hand drawn, can be from a photograph, can be like in this case from a little marker sketch. And if you don't want to have a repeat with a hard edge so it looks like a rectangle, make sure that it's white in your background all the way around the edge of your marquee. If I was to say cross over that sketch somewhere, it's going to repeat, it's going to cut that off and sample a hard edge. So that's really how you make your custom brushes. But that's really just the first step. The next step is to test them out and modify them. So if I open up my brush palette and I expand it here, you're going to see that at the very bottom, those little sketches down there, those are all the brushes I just created. So it's going to add them to the bottom of your brush presets. And then what you want to do is modify them using things like shape dynamics and scattering and texture and dual brush and transfer and smoothing, etc. And that's in the current palette, sort of just left of center, that has the little that I'm on the dual brush right now. So if I click it once with a mouse or even a pen, I'm just going to get a stamp of exactly what I captured. And as soon as I go into these modifiers, which I would encourage you to just go through all of them and just test them one at a time. So if I flip X, right, it's going to flip left and right, and it's also tumbling because I have the angle jitter also set up. So try each one of those sliders and see what it does. And that's really the best way to learn in this case, is to just go through each one and see what it does to your brush stamp. Here I'm mixing it with a different brush. I'm going to combine them using multiply compositing, and it's mixing the two brushes and they're stamping together, kind of how if you took like a layer mask almost, or an alpha mask, crossing each other out. And then I'm stamping it around and see if there's any interesting shapes in there. I also can paint white back in there instead of just dark, and you keep going and going and you start to see interesting shapes show up. And they're all shapes that were created from my marker sketch, so they somehow feel familiar to me, but are mixing in a different way and really abstracting. So here I'm mixing it with a different custom brush, so you can keep picking different brushes and you'll get different examples. Here it's mixed with a different one, and now this is the brush I'm using, and so I'm going to stamp this around a few times. And you'll see I'm just on one layer at the top, my layer stack, and I'm just looking for interesting shapes just to sort of stimulate my brain. And this is again the case of happy accidents, which you've seen, myself and lots of other artists explore that way of working. And I'm just going to stamp it around a bit and see if I see something, and I'll do a little example here. This whole tutorial is only about 21 minutes, and so I think looks like for about 6 minutes here I'll just do a little paint over. So I've stamped around that sketch as my brush, mixing it with another brush tip set to dual brush, probably just using the mouse to stamp it around. And then I'm going to go back in from my tool presets. I'm going to grab some of my normal painting brushes, and I'm going to speed up this little section through here, and I'm going to go in and start to define the things that I see in that sort of collage that I think are interesting. And I have another tutorial I'll probably post in a few weeks, which is looking at the same collage multiple times and then pulling out several different looking designs out of the same collage. So I have added a layer to the top, and I'm just doing some cleanup. And I always start by defining my silhouette, the silhouette and stance and proportions first, which goes back to that proximity styling lecture that I did, that I posted. Was that last? It was probably the last YouTube video I posted. So here I am just going to grab one of my basic drawing brushes and start to define the forms. And so I see like this huge eyeball, and it's going to be some sort of a multi-legged rideable mech of some sort, I think. And so this is how you would go in and start to refine that clutter. And so I'm just picking the values that are already there and trying to work with what is already I've already seen without having to start from scratch. And so this is kind of it's a really fun way to work, as you saw in one of my previous tutorials with that quadruped. But this is how I would use those custom brushes. And so I just used one of the custom brushes I just made. So hopefully this will answer a lot of the questions I've been getting about, making custom brushes, etc. And at the end of this, I'm going to show you a bit more of my tool presets and explain them, and explain some of the brushes that I'm going to post for free for you guys to download. I'm going to set up a public Dropbox or a public folder on my Dropbox. So look for the link in the description for this tutorial. And there should be a link there where you can download some basic tool presets that I saved and some custom brushes. And they're just really basic, a really great basic set of rendering brushes. Nothing super special yet, but that'll probably follow in the later this year. So here I am. I'm just scribbling around, having fun. Picking the values that are within the collage, and then just trying to go in and glaze over it and pick out some shapes. And a lot of times I work very small like this. You can see it's a very small portion of my screen, and it's because I don't want to get caught up in a lot of details. So I think it's very easy to start that way and block out the silhouette. And once you've got something that you like, now you can zoom in and go in a little bit closer. But I got the basic stance. It's a four-legged thing. It's sort of standing on three legs. It's lifting its front left arm, front left leg, and it's got some sort of weird appendage here on the side. I don't know what that is. So it's going to be a little asymmetric, but overall it's got some general symmetry. So I'm sort of defining a loose center line and starting to define some contours, and then picking and glazing over. And what's fun about this technique is that when you glaze over, you get a lot of extra noise, if you will, in your original collage showing back through. And here I've decided to try and do some loose symmetry. So using that centerline reference point and then sort of working left and right from that, trying to true it up a bit as I go. But you can see it's very, very loose. And it's giving me some stuff that I probably would not have drawn. So although technically this collage came from one of my drawings, right? It was one of my own little marker sketches, and that's what I turned into a custom brush. And then by collaging that drawing, I was able to get this as my start. So I guess in a weird way, it's sampling my own sketch to then sketch and work back over the top. So, and it's kind of, as you could easily see, it's just endless, because I could also take this sketch and I can make a custom brush out of this entire sketch as it is right now, and then I could sample that and mix it with another dual brush, etc. And again, it's just that fun realm of happy accidents, and it's really just tricking your brain to see shapes and forms, because there's lots of value changes there that you would not normally see, and you might not normally draw, and it really helps to break muscle memory. And one of the tricky things about working this way is to not let yourself fall back into the same shapes, the same rhythms that you would if you drew this thing from scratch. So I think that becomes one of the challenges for sort of more experienced designers when they have a set of forms and shapes that they always like to draw, is to try and challenge yourself to stay true to the abstraction of the collage, if you will, and try and stick with the new and innovative shapes and forms that you saw that drew you to painting over this thing in the first place. And actually can be a bit of a challenge for somebody who's got a bit more experience and has a lot of muscle memory and draws the same sort of shapes over and over again. Of course, infusing it with your own shapes might give it its personality, and it will look like you designed it. But when I do these, I try to really push outside of my normal comfort zone and experiment. And they don't take much time. And if I like some, then I'll go back to it later and try to refine it, and then figure out how it's going to work, where the pivot points need to go and the clearances, etc. But at this level, I'm not worried about any of that. I'm just worried about, we're not really worried, just trying to explore and trying to find an interesting shape. So that'll, I'm not going to take it much further than this. I just wanted to show how you could collage some of those new custom brushes and then how I use that as a spark for inspiration. Very similar to that quadruped mech uh, tutorial I did a few weeks ago. So this one though is all about custom brushes, so I'm going to switch over and talk more about that. Okay, so since I've been getting so many requests for custom brushes, even though the brushes, I just showed you how to make all your custom brushes, I'm going to upload onto my Dropbox public account this set of tool presets for you and this set of custom brushes that I've made. And some of these are really simple, but just let me give you an example how you might use one of these. These are some water ripples that I made, and what you do is you just sort of go like this and paint, and then I have my hand on the bracket key, and I'm actually shrinking the size of the brush as I paint into the distance. So I'm getting a foreshortened plane as I paint. So it's kind of a fun way to quickly paint a foreshortened ground plane, and here it's just water ripples. Now technically I should be also squeezing that, so while you're painting at the same time, you could also start to squeeze that brush shape, making it thinner and thinner, so off in the distance, right? And you could change angle as well, but that's another way to use that brush is so not only are you changing with the bracket, like when you get way out there, and then you can also switch angle a little bit, flatten it out as we get way out into the distance, and then I can hold the shift key and start to define a straighter line. So that's one of the ways, and I put that brush on there for you in that. So I saved these in PS4, so if you're not using the latest Photoshop, they'll still load, and so feel free, peck around in there. There's some interesting brushes. This is a really nice mist one that I like. I'm going to paint it dark, and then we'll layer back in some lighter mist. But I think this has some nice settings. And as I just mentioned, the way to try and this will have some of these things already preset for you. So transfer will be set to pin pressure, scattering, shape dynamics. So you can click on those and see how I have my brush set. There's some nice things for rendering sort of effects on shiny painted surfaces like spider webbing, highlights, that kind of thing on like scratched lacquer surface. There's the classic, ping, sort of photographic, refracted iris highlight. There's, I don't know what else is in here. Anyway, pick around, have fun with them. Some texture brushes, some custom ones that I've made. Not a huge selection, but enough to get you started. Also a nice variety of different settings over here under the modifiers for scattering, texture, etc. And then these, I use these a lot. Let's hide brushes. I use tool presets more than anything to help my workflow be even faster. So let's just go to black. So for instance, you have erasers here, and I tend to not have current tool selected. If I have current tool, it will only show me all the brushes. If I had an eraser, it would only show me the erasers. I try to have not so many tools. You'll see in some of my other tutorials, there's the brushes are totally expanded out. So this is just what I consider to be a nice basic set of brushes. So there's 100% opacity airbrush. So this is really nice. It doesn't have the thing is with most Photoshop brushes, they have shape dynamics turned on, and you get these little points at each end, and that's just awful to render nice big surfaces with. So you really want that off, and you want pressure sensitivity turned on. I have flow pressure turned on with sensitivity. So these all these brushes will work best if you're using a Wacom tablet of some sort. So that's my 100% opacity one, meaning 100% up here. It's set to 100% opacity. Then there's a 30-50. That's going to be like 30% opacity with 50% flow. So it just builds in slower. 50% airbrush. Pretty straightforward, like half of 100, obviously. And this is my super soft one. So if you're really doing subtle work, and you'll see I only save one size. Then I just use the bracket keys to change sizes. And this is a nice elliptical brush. I tend to use this one a lot. It's got a nice hard edge, but it has some pressure sensitivity turned on. Here's one with a little bit of texture to it. So if you're like painting over a marker sketch, for instance, this has like what looks like paper texture. That's kind of nice. Same thing with this guy, but I think without the texture. This is kind of like a nice straightforward pencil to draw with. It's a finer pencil, a 2 pixel. And building brush, it has a nice kind of texture to it. It's 100% opaque, so you get there pretty quickly. And then here's a 40% preset. Same brush, just lower opacity, so you build in a little bit slower. Color edge, color brush, that's just going to shift the color. It's going to do it at 50% opacity. Here's a super hard edge color shift. So it's just going to shift, right, and not change the values underneath. So if I'm colorizing something, I can just pick one of these colorizing brushes. Color dodge, that's going to go towards whatever color you have picked. Just like here, and this is a fairly slow one. Color dodge 12%. You see a 12% opacity. The color mode is set to color dodge. Let's go with a faster one. So you can color dodge little bright specular highlights, right, or glowing lights, etc. I have a textured one, a fast one here at 48. I have a super fast set to white, and I'd use this a lot to clean up edges of line drawings. So if I scan a line drawing and there's some scruff out around the edge, you can go here and just clean that up with a nice light touch, and you won't lose a lot of your interior shapes. So you can see where it's turning white, but I'm still keeping some of the edges to those. So that's kind of that's a really nice one for line drawing and marker sketch cleanup. I do that a lot to get rid of, like, if there's extra light gray noise around your drawing. That's a good one to clean up with. This one, left direction, right direction. This is if I've got a portrait or any shape and I want to have a hard edge on one side and a lead in to a nice soft gradation on the interior. So if I go down, right, with the stroke here, I get hard edge on the left to gradation to the middle, and then if I go up, I get the reverse on the other side. But I can never paint in that direction with the stroke. So my tendency is, I have 2 brushes here. Since I'm usually working on a 21-inch Cintiq, this is right direction. So if I'm always stroking down, you'll see that, right, hard edge gradation towards the inside. And this brush could be refined and made a little bit better. And then here's the left one. So same sort of stroke, but doing from the opposite direction. And if you want to see what makes that up, click on these buttons, again, Shape Dynamics, and you'll see that this has actually been rotated 90 degrees to get it to be hard on one side, soft on the other. It's probably when I captured the brush, I captured it horizontally, and in order to get the stroke right, I had to rotate it. I also have angle jitter set to initial direction. That maybe would be better, maybe even as direction. So as you go around a corner, right, you can get that to follow. So hard edge, soft. So you can see there's a little line showing up in the interior. This needs to be softened out and gradated a little bit softer there so you don't see a line showing up. And pressure sensitivity, and I have smoothing. Smoothing gets rid of the faceting that Photoshop likes to add occasionally. So if you're trying to make a nice drawing brush, always check smoothing and turn it on. That'll get rid of some of the faceting. So that's it for the brushes. So these are some nice tool presets. There's a smudge brush, which is kind of nice. Rake, it's just got finer lines to it. And I usually just save one of each, and then I just use the bracket keys for changing size. Shadow multiply. Shadow multiply is a brush set to multiply instead of normal. Okay, and it's 50% opacity. So if you're trying to shade an area, it's basically going to give you the effect of using a multiply layer, but in this case as a brush. So there you go. Have fun with them. Look at the in the description for this tutorial, and there should be the link there to my public Dropbox where you can download the tool presets, and then how you open them. Let's see. Just make it a little smaller. Okay, so if you wanted to replace your tools or add them, you would just hit here on the tool presets. You would go to load tool presets, and that will add to whatever existing tool presets you have. If you want to replace them all together, you can hit replace tool presets, but before you do that, you might want to save yours to your desktop or something. Same goes for the brushes. You can go here to the controller and you can do the same thing. Reset, load, save. So save out your existing brushes. You can load my brushes. If you load them, they'll just add on to what you already have. If you replace, they're going to delete the brushes you have and replace them with these. So, I would probably do load and add them to what you have, try them out, and then just delete the ones you don't like and keep the ones you do. And that's about it. So I hope this helps with your ability and have fun with making custom brushes and experimenting, and keep refining the set as you go, and then refine your tool presets as you go. Should you ever want to get rid of any of these, the easy way is go to the preset manager. There's your list. You can pick any of these and then delete, and then go back and you're done. Same thing here for brushes. Go to preset manager, and there they all are. And if there's a brush you don't like, you can delete it. And what's nice, you find the common ones you're using and you want to group them. You can also move them around. Say that, oh, okay, this is one that I want to be next to this one. So you can change the order here in the preset manager, and then you hit done, and it will update here. So when you pop that open, you've got them all in the order that you like. So I hope that answers some of the questions I've been getting about custom brushes, and have fun with it. They're powerful when you use them right, and I'll probably add more at some point in the future. So have fun.